Thank you very much for joining us for our informational webinar about the Master of Economic Development and Innovation program at the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo. My name is Christina Pope, and I will be your host for today's session. I'm the Graduate Studies Marketing and Recruitment Specialist, and I help prospective students like you find information about our master's and PhD programs available in the Faculty of Environment. And I'm joined today by some amazing faculty, staff, and alumni who can't wait to share their knowledge and expertise about the Master of Economic Development and Innovation program, which we also call MEDI. There will be information on the program structure, alumni outcomes, student experience and admissions requirements, and then we'll end the webinar with a Q&A session with questions from you, our audience. A couple of important housekeeping items before we proceed. This webinar is being recorded and the recording will be distributed to all registrants by email about 24 hours after the webinar concludes. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A box. That's what we will be using to answer questions from you, our audience, at the end of the session. As an attendee to the webinar, you don't have permissions to unmute your mic, so the best way to get in contact with us is through the Q&A box. Our first presenter today will be Dr. Heather Hall, who is the director of the MEDI program and one of the leading scholars on innovation and economic development in rural and northern regions in Canada. Her research focuses include the impact of new technologies in the mining and agricultural sectors, the community impacts of large-scale industrial projects, innovation and economic development policy, and planning and practice in rural and northern regions. We're also joined today by Jennifer Nicholson, who is the administrative manager for the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development, and she will be your main point of contact while we fill the role of the MEDI program administrator, which was held for several years by Jennifer Doucette. And Jennifer Doucette has accepted a new role within the Faculty of Environment. We're very happy for her. And she's joining us today in the background in case we need any of her knowledge or expertise during the Q&A session. We're also joined today by two MEDI alumni, Tracy Tawia and Frederick Van Royen, who will be talking about their experience in the MEDI program and what they are up to now. And before we get started, the University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabeg and Haudenosaunee people. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is coordinated within the Office of Indigenous Relations. And Treaties Recognition Week just occurred last week, and the Office of Indigenous Relations has a recorded lecture on the treaties made by the Six Nations of the Grand River and how these impact life within the Six Nations, both historically and today. And it is available online if you're interested in viewing it, and I actually look at it annually if you are interested. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Dr. Heather Hall.
Thank you, Christina. As Christina mentioned, and for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. My name is Heather Hall, and I'm one of the faculty members in the MEDI program, but I'm also the director of the Master's of Economic Development and Innovation program. We can go to the next slide. So for those of you who are looking at applying to MEDI, we are situated within the Faculty of Environment, and our faculty is dedicated to doing research that is both impactful and transdisciplinary, that addresses complex environmental and societal issues. If you choose to come to MEDI, you'll be joining a vibrant community of over 230 graduate students within the School of Enterprise Environment, Enterprise, and Development, which is SEED, which is the school where MEDI is housed, but also well over 685 graduate students within our faculty and some of our sister graduate programs. You'll also be joining a really deep alumni network with over 14,000 alumni in 80 countries worldwide. And within our own school, we have a lot of great expertise in both environmental sustainability, business management, international development, and then, of course, in economic development and innovation. For the MEDI program, we were actually created originally in 1987. We've gone through a few name changes, and we've been known as the Master of Economic Development and Innovation Program since 2016. We are one of the only graduate programs in Canada that is exclusively focused on economic development. And one of the things that I think really sets our program apart from others is that we really try to ensure that you're getting practical hands-on learning to address often complex economic development challenges that our communities and our cities are facing across Canada and internationally. The MEDI degree is also recognized by the national professional body that represents economic developers in Canada, known as the Economic Developers Association of Canada, or EDAC, who offers a certificate in economic development. And so a MEDI degree is one of the degrees that is recognized towards that certification. For MEDI, what it is designed as is a 1 year, 12 month, if you're doing it full time in-person program. There are part-time options, and we can work with you in terms of what that looks like for a schedule and timeline purposes if you're looking to do the program part-time. It is a course-based program, and it is designed as a professional program with a capstone, which is typically an internship, but we'll look at some of the options that we do have. And at the end of the degree, what you'll see on when you graduate is a Master of Economic Development and Innovation. In terms of some of the core faculty team that we have, so Christina mentioned some of the work that I do. We also have Dr. Jeff Wilson, who does a lot of amazing research in economic and sustainability research and natural capital accounting. We have Dr. Sean Joby, who is one of our experts here in our faculty, in our school, and in the MEDI program on social innovation, social entrepreneurship, and social finance. And then we are really lucky to have Paul Naflecht, who is a consultant and has a company called President of Community Benchmark, Inc. He has over 25 years of experience working in economic development, and he teaches in our program for one of our courses. In terms of the program structure, there are 8 courses total that you will be completing as a MEDI student. 4 of those are considered core courses, so they are required. You would take all of those. We also have 2 thematic courses, which are also required, and then there's 2 open electives. In terms of our approach, we really try to blend that traditional kind of academic lecture with more experiential learning through field trips, guest speakers, and also projects with the local partners in our community. We often try to treat Kitchener-Waterloo as a living lab, and so we're often out in the community seeing economic development in action. And we really do try to provide that blend of both academic cutting-edge research with the professional skills you will need if you enter the economic development profession. In terms of those core courses and the thematic courses, so the core courses, of which there are 4, you're looking at ECDEV 601 and 602, which are our theory and frameworks and our policy and practice course. We often have those 2 classes together on the same day, back to back, which allows us to do some really exciting field trips and getting out into the community. But also for part-time students who might be working, it also gives you an option to take 2 courses on the same day. So it's only 1 day potentially away from work or where you're having to balance your schedule. The other 2 core courses are ECDEV 603, so Analytical Tools and Techniques for Economic Development. This is the course that Paul Naflecht teaches. And then ECDEV 604, which is Management and Policy Tools for Economic Development and Sustainability Professionals. With regards to our thematic courses, these are ECDEV 605, which is Entrepreneurship and Small Business Development, and then ECDEV 606, which is Innovation and Economic Development in Cities and Regions. When it comes to your 2 elective courses, there are a number of pre-approved electives that we offer in some of our graduate programs that are within SEED, within our faculty, and then elsewhere on campus. So within SEED, we have 3 other graduate programs in addition to MEDI. So we have the Masters of Development Practice, a Masters of Sustainability Management, and a Masters in Environment and Business. So there are electives that you can choose from any 3 of those programs. Some popular electives that our students like to take are often in the School of Planning, but also in Geography and Environmental Management, in the broader faculty, and sometimes in the School of Environment, Resources, and Sustainability. And then elsewhere on campus, a number of our students in the past have taken elective courses in economics, global governance, recreation and leisure, sometimes in architecture and management science. In terms of the capstone project, so typically a normal one-year full-time Medi student will be taking 4 courses in the fall, 4 courses in the winter, and then will be pursuing their capstone in the spring term. And what we typically hope that students gain by doing the capstone is to really get that practical professional experience in the field of economic development and innovation. And we look at that more broadly. And ideally, students can start to see where they might fit and try to get an internship that will lead to a career. There's 3 different pathways currently for pursuing your capstone project. Definitely the most popular is the internship. So the majority of our students will pursue an internship with an external organization and complete that full time for 4 months. Another route that's usually very popular with our part-time students who may already be working in economic development or other professions is the applied research project with an external organization. And then we also do have a third pathway, which is a major research paper. So more similar to what you would see with a thesis research program, just a little bit scaled down. In terms of some of the experiential learning opportunities that we talked about on an earlier slide, we really do try to build this into all of our courses and our curriculum and the degree itself. We're often bringing in people in Active 601 and 602 who are leading experts in foreign direct investment. We've had people who are leading experts in strategic planning, in planning, and also getting out into the community to do field trips. And so this week on Monday, we were just out in Oxford County where we were looking at rural entrepreneurship and had the opportunity to meet with a number of economic development officers in Oxford County who hosted us. And we visited different businesses. We did a walking tour of downtown Woodstock and got to see economic development on the ground. We also do course projects with outside organizations and partners. So right now, the students in Active 602 are working quite closely on a vision and strategy with our research and technology park here on campus. And then in the winter term, the students always are offered an opportunity to attend the EDCO conference, which is the Economic Developers Council of Ontario, which is the professional body that represents economic development practitioners in the province. And then the final experiential learning opportunity that we offer is the capstone project, which we talked about on the previous slide. This is just a photo of some of our experiential learning that we've done over the previous years and one of our cohorts on graduation. But we often get out, so into Velocity, which is an incubator here in Kitchener-Waterloo. The Kitchener sign was when we go down to downtown Kitchener and hear about strategic planning and the redevelopment of downtown Kitchener. We do a walking tour of downtown Kitchener with Corey Bloom. And one of the photos on the left-hand side, or a few of the photos, are from a field trip a couple of years ago in Oxford County. In terms of where our students often find careers or opportunities post-degree, Christina was able to get some data from about 94% of our graduates from the last 5 years. So as you can see, a large number of our graduates, 48%, end up in public administration, whether that's at the local, provincial, or federal level. Another 21% end up in management, consulting, or development services, 13% in education, and 16% in other. Within government, we often see a lot of our alumni end up working as local economic development officers or business advisors or business analysts. We also see a number of our graduates or alumni go on to work for the provincial and federal government as policy advisors. And we have one of our alumni who is a chief innovation officer as well. In terms of looking at the management consulting and development services, we have a number of alumni who've gone on to work for some of the major consulting firms across Canada, including Deloitte, Davis Pierre. I had a student who recently reached out and is now working with KPMG. And so a wide variety of career pathways for our alumni post-degree. And we're really lucky that we do have this really amazing alumni network. And I think that's one of my favorite things about the MEDI program is how connected our alumni are to the program and offering advice to both prospective students, but also current students, networking, sharing internship opportunities should they have any available with their organizations. And we're very lucky to be joined today by both Frederick and Tracy, who were two recent alumni from our program. And so we've got a few questions that we're going to ask them, and then they'll stick around too until the end. I already see a few questions in the Q&A to answer some questions if you have questions for the student experience side of things. We can also connect you with current students and alumni if you're hoping to chat with a student who's through the MEDI program beyond the webinar today. So I'm going to first start and ask how you arrived at the MEDI program. So maybe a little bit about your educational background or your journey if you were working and then returned to MEDI. And maybe we'll start first with Frederick and then we'll same question for Tracy.
Sure, thanks, Heather. So yeah, I'm originally from small town in Ontario called Walkerton. Kind of that typical kind of rural farming town, kind of your typical main street. And so that was one of my main sort of interests that got me both into planning and economic development was that small town main street or downtown and seeing how some of these smaller towns are either declining or thriving and how practitioners are kind of supporting that growth or local improvement. So I ended up doing my undergrad degree in urban planning at the University of Waterloo. Um, as part of that, they had co-op experience, which was really great, and so I got some initial experience at the Lambton County, so just outside Sarnia, and then quite a bit of co-op experience at the city of Ottawa, and so that really got me into planning and sort of how communities grow and how we can and shape them. And so following that, I worked as a planner for a small municipality just south of North Bay called Callender. And then after a year of that, I moved back to Waterloo and worked for the city of Waterloo for about 3.5 years, mostly doing development review, some heritage planning. And basically while I was at the city, that development experience was great, but I wanted to sort of, broaden my experience and perspective. Development can be, very focused at times, and so being able to sort of step back and think and look at things from a bigger perspective was something that enticed me, and so that's where, um, economic development came into play for me. And being in Waterloo, the MEDI program was, right down the street, and so I did the Medi program part-time, so 2 courses per term, while I was still working full-time as a planner at the city of Waterloo, and that was in 2019 to 2021. So great timing during the pandemic, but yeah, that's kind of my initial journey to Medi.
Perfect. Thanks, Freddie. And Tracy.
Frederick, you sound like you had rich experience before joining the program. Good for you. For me, I'm originally from Ghana. So for the foreign students on the call, this might be more beneficial to you. But I moved from Ghana to come and do my undergrad here at York University, and I studied economics. So just leaving Ghana, Ghana is a country in West Africa, by the way. It's a developing country too. So I just had a thought to come to Canada, get the education, get the experience, and then go back home to help my country in some way, shape, or form. Just understand how the economy works and how growth can really be achieved for development. And so that was my motivation for studying economics. during my undergrad degree. But just down the line, somewhere in my third year, I just felt like this is not it. This is not what I envisioned when I was going to study economics. It just turned to statistics and econometrics and math. And it's like, nope, this is not it. I need something practical. I need something more tangible, like something on grounds as to how development really works. And at the time, I had a professor who was an economic development practitioner, and he introduced me to economic development. He said, if this is what I'm thinking, then this could be a path I could take. And so, after speaking to him, I took the local economic development certificate at Toronto Metropolitan University. That was a 1 year program, but it was more on a part-time basis. So I was working with BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada, as a client support coordinator and taking that course on the side just to understand how the course was before I make the major investment in taking the master's program. Because, of course, for international students, the fees are on the higher side. And so I wanted to make sure it was what I really wanted before making the investment in that. And that was really how I ended up in the Medi program. I found out too that it was more specialized. It was actually the only program in Canada that was specialized in economic development. And it was accredited for the EDAC certification in economic development too, which I was looking ahead to pursue. So I just felt it could meet all the objectives in one.
That's one of the great things I think about Medi too, is where our students are coming from in terms of their undergraduate degrees can be quite diverse, but also professional experience. So we do have students who are coming right out of undergraduate, so coming straight into the Medi program. And then we do also have students in the program who have maybe worked. It could be in economic development, or it could be in a career totally unrelated to economic development, but are looking to pivot and looking to build on what they've experienced in terms of their other careers and see how that can fit within the economic development profession. You both touched a little bit on the motivations for applying, but maybe we can talk a little bit more about what you were hoping to learn when you applied for the Medi program, and maybe we'll start with Tracy.
Right. I think I probably touched on it a bit, but I was looking for something more defined, like a more defined career path. I felt like economics was just broad and you could either end up in banking, like literally end up anywhere with that degree. But I wanted something more specialized where, especially for getting a job after graduation, it wasn't going to be as tough because I know the labor pool is huge and is very competitive looking for a job after graduation, especially as an international student. So I was thinking steps ahead of what the outcome would be and how the program really would be of benefit. Knowing that there was an internship component attached to the program as well was very significant for me because that's always the first step into the field. Is always the door that kind of opens the pathway for you. So I was really looking to make connections in the program and also learn the practicality of the field, just so I could have something to also put on my resume beyond the generic education experience.
Perfect. And Frederick.
Yeah, for me, it was that sort of bigger picture perspective that I thought economic development would really help sort of supplement my planning experience and perspective. So I think it really helped. You know, I find planning and development, especially when you're in kind of that regulatory position or box, it can not be the most sustainable. So economic development for me offered that opportunity to think about, well, how can we support, the growth and development with our communities in a bit of a different way. So, I think back to kind of my small town upbringing of some of the tools that are very much intersected between planning and economic development in terms of like community improvement plans or tax increment grants or financing for like brownfield redevelopments. And so that's where you know I found the program was really beneficial to sort of take my experience and broaden it with that perspective.
That's fantastic. And I would say if anyone is joining who does have an undergraduate in planning and is looking to kind of work at the local level, having that complementary degree in economic development and innovation is really common for some of our alumni who have that background, and certainly something that helps when you are either on the job market or working and being able to apply kind of both of those skill sets. Maybe we'll turn to the last kind of questions about your experience in the program, and then maybe also how it's helped you where you are now, so where you're working, and how maybe the Medi degree and your experiences in the program help shape that. And maybe we'll start with Frederick.
Yeah, I was reflecting on some of the coursework preparing for this, and looking back, it's the amount of relevant skill set and experience from the program that actually, you know, relates to work that I've done since is like impeccable. So, I mean, that first 601 and 602 course, having them combined is a great foundation in terms of understanding the why behind economic development, and why we do the things we do as practitioners. Um, I remember 603 having that importance of stats and sort of data driven decision making. I remember I did a project looking at sort of analyzing housing affordability in Halifax, and even in my current role at the city of Fredericton, like we have an affordable housing strategy, and there's a number of housing files that I help support. That course was very transferable for the skills I use in that day-to-day work. Um, I remember 604. I still remember the project with you, Heather, in terms of getting a community and looking at kind of the place marketing and branding behind it. And again, that was a real intersect between planning and economic development. And some of the work I did in my internship role was for an industrial park in the city of Waterloo, and you know, industrial park doesn't really have that flash or flare to it. So we actually worked on branding the industrial park to make it a bit more attractive for people. So 605, I remember working on a funding proposal, and I mean the number of funding proposals that we do on a day-to-day basis here is exponential. So that was very valuable experience. And then 606 being more of sort of innovation in economic development, looking at some of the technology and improvements that are in that. Again, really sort of came into play with I did a project on ocean superclusters, looking at the benefits for kind of smaller enterprises and local communities, as well as regionalism. So in my current job, we just have some new rural areas that were added. So there's a lot of regionalism and partnership that's happening in the community I work with at the moment. So again, a lot of transferable skills in those core courses. Even though I'm not technically working in an economic development role at the moment, obviously. So for the capstone or internship part, I worked 6 months at the city of Waterloo. I took a secondment position as an economic development officer, and so I had some really great experience working in kind of the plans and programs that I was interested in. So they had a kind of uptown community improvement plan that was existing. Given that it was COVID times, I actually got to prepare a COVID relief community improvement plan, which was really interesting. There was a brownfield redevelopment programs that we had, and then the industrial park that I mentioned there, which is just behind the Costco, if you're familiar with Waterloo there. And so we worked on, the intersect between, the planning and the land use that went behind it, but also the more business side and economic development of how do we get this area kind of unlocked and attractive for people to invest in. So So following that, I actually moved to the city of Fredericton, where I've been for the past 4.5 years, and currently a senior planner there. So back in a planning position, but being that it's sort of a smaller city, I've had some really great opportunities to be involved in not only kind of traditional development and planning, but also some larger policy initiatives to be able to use the skill sets both in planning and economic development. So um, like we're doing a number of different projects on the go. So we're reviewing like our growth strategy. Again, it's kind of that bigger picture task and looking at how our city's growing. And so being able to think of it not only from a planning perspective, but economic development perspective is really beneficial. I get to be involved in a strategic plan for our city-owned land. So again, I can look at it from both perspectives there. We did an inventory of our commercial and industrial land. Again, being in that planning role, but having that perspective, and then also supporting some of our larger files with funding for the Housing Accelerator Fund and Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund. So uh, overall, again, it's it's been really beneficial to have that economic development perspective, even though I'm in a planning role and it crosses the lines here and there, but the skill set has been really beneficial to my work.
Thanks, Frederick. And Tracy, same question. Your
I was
experiences in the program, and then where you are now.
I was just nodding my head the whole time Frederick was speaking because I was like, same, same, same. The the program, and I guess that's the benefits of the program. It's targeted at the occupation that you're doing. It's targeted at economic development. So a lot of the things that we did in the course of the program are things that I'm doing now on the job. And I'm referring to assignments. At the time, it wasn't really the best experience because it was just a lot happening at the same time and very demanding. But trust me, it does work out fine when you come to the working world. Because in my mind, when I was doing all the assignments, I'm like, in the real world, I don't think you have to do all of these papers, write all of these things. And I'm here, and guess what? I'm writing all of these reports and doing the briefing notes and things like that. I've been in my role now so I actually started as a rural renewal coordinator. I got hired on an 18 months contract. So part of that fulfilled my internship experience. But after 12 months on the job, I was promoted to the position of economic development specialist. And so there are so many different things that I work on at the same time. Like I'm working on an investment attraction marketing strategy. And I remember there was an assignment about place branding and marketing, trying to figure out what audience you're looking to attract and what community resources you can put together to attract that audience. And I'm doing the same thing now, except during the assignments, I focused on workforce, but now in my role, I'm focusing on investment attraction. So very, very related and transferable. We did briefing notes, and I'm having to do briefing notes here. In my time here, less than 2 years, I've already done 4 briefing notes. I'm doing reports and things like that to council. Um, I know we did grant writing. I've had to do grant applications here and manage those grants as well, do the grant reporting at the same time. And so it's different pockets of so many things. You may think you are focusing on one thing during the time of the program, but when you get to the working world, well, as an economic development officer or specialist, if you're working with a municipality, there are so many different pockets of economic developments that you have to tackle. It wouldn't necessarily be one area for you. You'll be handling multiple things. So it's important to be well rounded. I think if I should go back, that's something that I would consider because I think I was focused a lot on workforce. But in the role now, I do realize it's a bit of everything, which we did study in the various courses. We did study business retention expansion, we were looking at investment, we looked at regionalism, which is also going on here because we work with our regional partners in the other municipalities as well. And so it was a very rich experience. I think for even some of the assignments that we did, I was able to share them on my LinkedIn, which actually landed me this role because when I posted it on my LinkedIn, I tagged the city and then they were intrigued as to why someone was interested in their community in that sense. And so you have to kind of put yourself out there if you're looking for more out of the program and engage, fully engage with the program. But aside that, everything Frederick said was literally my experience during the program.
And that was I think, one of our favorite stories from a couple of years ago when the students actually just handed in their video assignments. So there's a video assignment in one of the courses where you get to pick a community and you get to do a video kind of talking about that community and trying to promote people to either move or invest there. And Tracy tagged Medicine Hat and then ended up getting a career there. So that's one of, I think, the great things about our program is it is recognized kind of coast to coast to coast as a program that is offering this training in economic development. We have alumni across the country at all three levels of government, and also a number of alumni who've gone on to work internationally. And so I think that that's one of the really nice things about this program. And we're always trying to ensure that what we're teaching in the program is what we're seeing reflected as the skills and needs in the profession, and the profession more broadly speaking. So we're often going to the professional economic development conferences for the province and for Canada. My research is in this area, so I'm often engaging with people through my own research, along with my colleagues, Sean and Jeff. And so we always do try to ensure that we're making sure that the skill sets that you get when you graduate for this program are transferable into the workforce. I did see a question at some point that I thought I might ask you to before we move on. Somebody, I think, asked, what was your favorite field trip or experiential learning experience? So Tracy and Frederick, a favorite field trip or experiential learning at Medi?
You go.
I was gonna say, I don't know who wants to go first. I'm trying to pull back the memories here, but I think it was really that engagement with the city, like when Heather's mentioned that, Kitchener-Waterloo being sort of this living lab and being able to, experience economic development on the ground, was really, really an exciting opportunity. So, like, I remember being sitting in the square in Kitchener there with, their economic development, officers and walking through downtown and hearing their perspective. For me, that was really valuable because, I've lived in the city for a while, but hearing their sort of economic development perspective was and the different work that they do was really valuable.
Tracy?
Yeah, I was going to point out the same one, but yeah, we did get field trip to downtown Kitchener, and then we had conversations with the manager of economic development there, which is very valuable. But in addition to that, we did a project with the city, so that was very practical. And for my group, we did a presentation on revitalizing the downtown Kitchener area. And I remember using that project to speak in an interview, which gave me like lots of bonus points in that interview. So you probably realize now, but for me, everything in the in the program was about getting a job after finding connections and then getting that visibility. So that one I think was very valuable for me.
Perfect. Thank you both. Now I think I'm turning things back over to Christina.
Yes, I'm sure that you guys could keep talking about all of the experiences in the program, and I almost feel bad about ending the conversation, but we do have a couple of slides about admissions requirements that I think some of our viewers might want to hear as well. So I'll try to be as brief as possible, but that was great. All right, so after you've heard everything about the MEDI program, I'm sure you're trying to figure out what it takes to get in. And MEDI students come from a variety of backgrounds. So that includes planning, geography, political science, business, commerce, economics, and other fields related to economic development. You're required to have an honors bachelor's degree or equivalent with a 75% admissions average. And if you're applying with transcripts from Canadian institutions, this average is calculated from your last 2 years of full-time study. And if you're applying with transcripts from outside of Canada, this average is calculated from your overall average. And we admit students from a variety of backgrounds. This list is not exhaustive. So if you have a different background, you can feel free to get in touch with us and we can answer your questions. You're required to submit 2 letters of reference who can speak to your experience and qualification for our program. And at least one of them should be an academic background. And just a note about your referees, if they should be using their professional or institutional email addresses when completing their reference forms to allow us to verify their identity. You'll have to submit a CV or resume and provide us with a writing sample. And you'll also have to complete some program-specific questions called PSQs within the admissions portal. And for MEDI, you'll be asked to explain why you want to study economic development and innovation and why you're a good fit for the MEDI program and what specific aspects of economic development and innovation are of interest to you. And you'll have about 500 words to submit those questions, the answers to those questions. For the application process, the University of Waterloo uses an entirely completely online process. You'll have to set up an online account with a username and password. When you start your application, you select your program, so MEDI, input your personal information and the required application information, which includes your academic background and your references. At this point, you'll have to pay a non-refundable $150 Canadian application fee, and that fee is per program. So if you're applying to more than one master's program, it's $150 per program. Your referees will then receive an email from the University of Waterloo with a link to the secure and confidential online reference form as soon as you send in the request. And then you have the option in your application portal to send reminders to your referees. We will send 2 reminders on your behalf, but if they need another nudge, it's something that you can do through the portal. Referees are confidential and the references are confidential and they're not shared between programs. So again, if you're applying to more than one program, the referee will actually have to complete the references separately because we don't share references through different programs. Once you've submitted your fee, and then you can begin to upload your documents through the application portal. That's where you will complete those program-specific questions. And that's also where on the portal you can track your application status. So there's an application checklist where you can see the materials that you're still required to upload. And once you've uploaded all the required documents and your referees have completed their references, that's when your application is complete and that's when we can start assessing your application. For international students, if you're wondering how the academic requirements translate into your country's grading system, we have a list of international admissions equivalencies on our website, and they're broken down by country or system of study. And this is one of the links that I include in the email that I'll send out to you when I send out the recording for the webinar. And for English language proficiency, people will have to prove English language proficiency, and we have several accepted tests, including the TOEFL and the IELTS, and the scores for the MEDI are listed on the slide. Just remember that these scores are only valid for 2 years from the test date, and we recommend you complete your test at least 2 months before the application deadline in order for the test scores to reach us in time. There are exemptions to the English language proficiency test requirements. They're listed on our website, and I will include the link in the email. But like 2 examples are if you've completed 3 or more years of post-secondary education at a Canadian institution or university, or if you've completed a graduate degree at a Canadian university. There are other exceptions listed as well, which will be included in the email that I send out. Tuition for the MEDI program is charged by an attendance basis. So this slide shows tuition. It's in Canadian dollars, and It's rounded for the sake of the presentation. It includes tuition, which is the first value, and incidental fees. Every grad student is assessed incidental fees, which cover things like student services fees. And for full-time students, you're charged a transit pass that gives you unlimited access to Grand River Transit. And when you apply, you're automatically considered for some entrance scholarships. So if your academic average is 85% or higher, you would receive an entrance award of $4,000. If it was between 80% and 85%, 80% and 85%, you would get an entrance award of $2,000. And again, the admissions average is calculated on your last 2 years of study if you have transcripts from Canadian institutions, and your overall average if you're coming to us with international transcripts. And we have a couple of tips and tricks to keep in mind when you're applying to the program. Just remember that we look at your application package as a whole, and we actually don't start assessing your application until we have a complete application package. And that allows us to get a full picture of you as an applicant. So make sure that all of the elements of your application are complete. And if you have any questions or concerns, we are always here to help you. And it's important that you select your references carefully because they're going to be speaking to your aptitude towards the program, whether or not they think you're going to be a good fit. So make sure that you choose them carefully. And just a reminder that the MEDI program is a course-based program, so a supervisor is not required. And the program-specific questions or PSQs are a chance for you to really sell yourself. So why do you want to enroll? What experience do you hope to gain from the program? And we really use the program-specific questions to ensure that you have the goals that we can meet for you for the program. So not only would you be a good fit for us, but making sure that your goals match what we can provide in the program. And it's really recommended that you apply approximately 4 weeks before the application deadline, which is February 1st for the MEDI program. And that just gives you a lot of time to upload your documents. It gives your referees a lot of breathing room in order to submit their references. And it really gives you the best chance of completing everything that needs to get done before the deadline without being too stressed in order to upload and complete the required elements. And just a reminder that we're available to answer any of your questions. And like I said, Jennifer Nicholson will be the person who will be answering the emails through the Grad Seed course email account in the interim. And then we're going to have a program administrator filling the MEDI role shortly. But no matter what, if you use that email address, it's going to get answered and someone will be able to answer your questions about the MEDI program. So I think that hopefully I didn't go too quickly through those slides, but I also wanted to make sure we had a lot of time for questions and answers because we've had a couple of really good questions come in during the presentation, which is great. And we're just going to jump right in. So we have gotten a couple of questions, Heather, about people who are hoping to balance this program while working full time and the requirements of being on campus and like what it would look like a part-time student. So do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'm seeing questions both part-time, but then also what it looks like kind of a day in the life of a MEDI student in terms of how many times a week you're on campus. So if you're a full-time student, you are doing 4 courses typically in fall and winter. What that looks like this term is most students are on campus a maximum 3 days a week. So that depends on whether all of the courses you take are in person. Typically, I've noticed that a lot of our students like to do the 3 required MEDI courses if they're full-time, and then potentially an online course in one of our other programs as an elective. And so that gives you a little flexibility to be off campus should you need it. For our part-time students, most of our courses are offered during the day. From time to time, if we do have a sessional instructor or an instructor who's coming in for a specific course and isn't part of the core faculty team, they may request an evening, but most of the courses are delivered in the MEDI program, in person, on campus, Monday to Friday, during usual 8:30 to kind of 5:30 timeframe. What we try to always do is in each term, so of when we offer courses, which is fall and winter, is to have 2 of our core or thematic courses on the same day. so that it is only if you are working and then doing the program part-time, it's only one day where you will potentially be working away from work. So right now we have ECDEV 601 and 602 is on Mondays from 11:30 in the morning till 5:20 in the afternoon, and we take some breaks, obviously, to allow everyone to have some food and have some comfort breaks built into that schedule. For those of you who are working and are curious about balance, you can reach out to me if you'd like to speak to any of our current students or some of our alumni who did do the program part-time while working. I'm happy to make those connections as well, so you can hear kind of some of the experiences and maybe tricks and tips for balancing that. Do you want me to just keep going through questions?
Yeah, I can help, because I'll help squish some of the questions together, but there are some people who are looking about asking about support for finding internships. Particularly, some people are asking, as an international student, finding assistance with finding internships.
So whether you're domestic or international student, we will be offering, usually alumni start reaching out to us, or previous employers will start sending, I've had a few cross my desk in the last week, internship opportunities. So we forward those out to the students as we get them. Students are also expected to try to secure their own opportunities by looking at online job postings. You can work with our Center for Career Action here on campus as well, that does some coaching and posting of opportunities. Through us and our networks, we're often able to connect people. We also do offer EDAC's professional training through the Economic Development Professional Program, of which we have an outreach manager position who posts a weekly job roundup of positions in economic development. And that gets posted to our University of Waterloo ECDEV social media channels. So LinkedIn is the primary one that I think most people access. And so there will be any kind of opportunity, whether that's an internship or not. We do encourage students to apply to actual careers, so they don't have to be specific for students or for an internship. We will count the first 4 months if you are able to secure a permanent position towards your MEDI degree, and then you continue working for that organization, much like Tracy mentioned when she was speaking. So we do have kind of that degree of flexibility built in to be able to assist and make sure that you're getting opportunities that are going to lead to a career. EDCO is also another great opportunity for our students. So that typically is every year in February. So the students go for the day, and it's great networking opportunity to meet people in the profession. There's a trade show, so you'll get to see various different organizations, both consulting, municipalities, provincial governments, and be able to talk to people about their organization and see if they have any opportunities for internships.
Excellent. And just to confirm, there was a question about if someone has to pay tuition during the internship term, and that's correct. You would be assessed tuition fees during that term. There were
It
also
is a degree requirement, so that's technically why there's still tuition due.
Mm-hmm. And then we also had some questions about support from the MEDI program after graduation, and like finding employment after graduation, and if we could kind of also talk about like the growth of economic development as a sector for people who are interested in joining it.
For sure. So I would say after graduation, many of our alumni stay active on the LinkedIn page and are following that weekly job roundup and applying. Many of our alumni might reach out to the guest speakers that they engaged with throughout the degree to see if there's networking opportunities or opportunities for careers. I do have students who will contact me and say, hey, I'm looking, if anything crosses your desk or you hear of anything, could you let me know? And I've certainly done that for many of our alumni when specific opportunities happen to come by and I know that they'd be a great fit. I make sure that it lands with whatever email address I have on file. And we're constantly, I think, as a faculty team, having alumni reaching out to us, giving us updates on where they are, which is always really great and exciting, but also if they're looking for network opportunities to see if we can facilitate that if possible.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to the high usage of the economic development LinkedIn page. And I find that Medi alumni, just the community is just so strong and so well connected, just coming from like my role. I can see that a lot of people know each other in the network. There were a couple of questions about the Canadian context of this program and whether or not you gain an international perspective of economic development in the MEDI program. And someone was asking a little bit about the difference between the MDP program, the Masters of Development Practice, which is another program available in SEED, and whether or not, like what would help them decide whether or not they were interested in MEDI or development practice.
Perfect. And I think I did see a question previously too about international capstone opportunities. So I'll kind of answer them all together. So I would say that the curriculum is designed to look at what is happening in the Canadian context, but we do pull in international examples. So in AcDev 606, for example, we talk about Silicon Valley, and we talk about smart specialization, which is from the UK, and we talk about industrial districts in Italy. So we are blending in insights from other places based on where those theory or where trends might be coming from. So understanding those connections. I also love when students in the program are coming with their own lived experience and share that either through their coursework or when we engage in the classroom and have conversations. So we do encourage kind of that sharing of knowledge if folks are interested and able to do so. In terms of some of the international internship opportunities, so students who have done that recently, I know one worked for an embassy. We had one just as I was starting in the MEDI program about 10 years ago who worked for the United Nations. We've had others who worked for research institutes. I was thinking of one student during the pandemic who went back to Egypt and was working at a research institute there. Often students are finding those either through their own networks or they're looking for the opportunities that they're seeing posted. We'll work with you one-on-one. So you come to me and you say, I'm really interested in working in an international context. I'll work with you to see what that could look like, and you can bring me ideas and we'll see if it can fit. So we're certainly very supportive of ensuring that people are getting what they want out of the degree in terms of the capstone opportunity if possible. In terms of our Masters of Development Practice program, so that program is entirely focused on international development. So it's like the cousin to the MEDI program. So what we do find is we may have students who come into either program and then do their electives in the opposite. So if you come into MEDI and you're really interested in kind of getting a little bit more understanding of that international development context, then you could take your 2 electives in MDP. And vice versa, we have had some students who apply for MEDI or for MDP and then are looking, okay, well, I want to see what this kind of information and knowledge that I'm learning in the MDP program looks like in the Canadian context. And I think I have one current student right now who has an international development background in terms of their education and training and is now in MEDI. So we often see kind of those blends coming in into the program.
And Tracy did turn on her camera, so I just didn't know if maybe she wanted to lend a little bit of perspective or if Tracy, you were just hanging out, but totally fine.
Sorry, I got disconnected right at the point where you were
Oh,
opening up for questions, and I
no
just
problem.
no
No
connection
problem.
to join back. So
Perfect. And then we had one, Heather, maybe you could talk to what people submit for a writing sample typically.
Writing samples can be all kinds of things. I think I saw one who said they had like a 60-page major research paper or thesis. Sure. I would say try to make sure that it is somewhat related so that we can make sure. I've had people who are already working maybe upload a professional report as long as you're allowed to share it, certainly. And then I've had other students where if it's been a while since they've been outside of the university, or they don't have professional reports that they're able to share, they might write something about economic development or an interest of theirs within it. So what we're looking typically there for is just the strength of the writing, ability to kind of engage with other research and citing. So certainly there's kind of a broad range of writing samples that we do see. I also saw a question about how large the cohorts are and how many mature students. So in terms of the cohorts, It ebbs and flows depending on what's happening. Obviously, we're just a couple of years out of the pandemic, and so it's been a bit of a roller coaster through that. Our current cohort right now is 14 students. We've had as high in the last couple of years as 25, so we're typically in that range between 15 and I would say 25 most years on average in that range, with some years being higher, some years being lower. So it just depends on kind of where people are at and what they're interested in. In terms of mature students, every year we get, I would say, about a quarter of our students are probably what I would define as mature students, so have already worked for several years and are now coming back into the program to either pivot or get this extra training to help further their career in economic development.
Excellent. And we have one question about someone who's curious about how strict the 75% admissions average is for the entire 4 years, and our applicants slightly under still considered. We do look at your application as a whole, and depending on the applicant, we do admit students with, one component of the application below the minimum standard. I would say that it would have to be slightly below the minimum standard, and that might be it might be a requirement for us to give a conditional acceptance. So we would give you an offer and then ask you to maintain a certain admissions, a certain average within the first like 1 or 2 terms in order for you to remain within the program. So there is the option of conditional acceptance for people who don't meet all of the requirements, but I would say that it would have to be, the rest of your application would have to be very strong, and the element that you would not be meeting would have to be very close to the admissions requirement in order for us to consider you. Anything else you want to add to that, Heather?
No, I think that was a very fair answer, and that's yeah, we'll typically look at the whole application and kind of treat every application on a case by case.
Yep, perfect. Awesome. Well, it is 1:01. So we are at the 1 hour mark for our webinar, and I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you so much for our panelists and for both Jennifers for helping in the background. And I hope that our viewers got an idea of how amazing the MEDI program is. And just a reminder that I will be sending out a link to the recording for the webinar, along with some of the important websites that I mentioned today, and we are always available for questions. And just a reminder that the application deadline for MEDI is February 1st, and we hope to see you in the classroom in fall 2026.
Thanks, everyone.